Good evening to everybody. I see two of you have joined us, which is great, and we're very excited to share our information with you. My name is Kristen. I'll be facilitating this meeting this evening, and we're just going to wait for a couple of more minutes to see how many other people join. But thank you very much for joining. We'll get started in just a second. I'll let you all know too that anytime during our short presentation, you can enter any questions or comments in the Q&A dialog box in Zoom. I have 6:03 and I'm just going to wait until 6:05 in case anybody needs to upload download a update to Zoom or anything like that. So
It's a good thought. I didn't think about that one necessarily. I've had to do that a few times.
yeah. Just give a little extra time. And thank you to those who have joined us. While we're waiting, you might want to orient yourself to your Zoom dialog boxes and just note in the Q&A dialog box, we welcome any questions or comments. We'll answer your questions at the end of the presentation, and the comments will be noted for the project record. So. All right, on my clock, it just turned to be 6:05, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, thank you for joining us. This is the virtual community meeting for the Queen Creek Mobility Options and Connectivity Study. And I thank you again for joining us. Remind you to place your questions, type your questions or comments into the Q&A dialog box. And we're going to go ahead and get started with Jan Martin from the town of Queen Creek for a welcome. Jan?
Good evening. I'm Janet Martin, an operations manager in the Public Works Department. And as you are all aware, the town is continuously improving transportation infrastructure with the goal of reducing traffic congestion on our roads. In addition to infrastructure solutions like adding lanes and employing the latest advances in our traffic signal management systems, we want to explore alternative solutions to reducing congestion. The study discussed this evening is one such effort that is looking at different mobility options. To conduct this study, the town is partnering with the Maricopa Associations of Governments, MAG. We have with us tonight MAG's project manager, Hannah Quincy, and the consultant team to provide more information about the study, the timelines, and their processes. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'll turn it over to Hannah and the consultant team to present the remaining content.
Thanks, Jan. Good evening, and it's my pleasure today to provide you with information about the Town of Queen Creek Mobility Options and Connectivity Study. We're going to present to you the study goals and objectives and processes, and we'll be requesting some input from you about the various mobility options considered in this study. We want to welcome you and thank you for joining us tonight and making the time. Before I get started, I want to introduce key members of our study team for presenting and facilitating the meeting tonight. First, my name is Hannah Quincy. I'm a transportation planner with the Maricopa Association of Governments, or otherwise known as MAG, for the Regional Planning Agency. I'm the project manager for this study, and I'm also joined by Justice Baruman, who is MAG's deputy project manager for this study. I'm also joined by Ravi Ambadipudi from Jacobs Engineering Group and Kristen Dar from Central Creative, representing the consultant team that's supporting our project. Ravi is serving as our consultant project manager for this study, and Kristen Dar is our project team member focused on community involvement.
And I'm very sorry about the slides switching while we're talking. I'm having some difficulty with that. All right, Hannah, sorry. Sorry about
No
that.
worries. Thanks, Kristen. The agenda for the meeting this evening is included on this slide. I want to note a couple of housekeeping elements before we get started. During the meeting, we're going to be conducting a live Q&A throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, as Kristen mentioned, please enter them into the chat box, and we're going to address your questions at the end of the presentation. So we welcome your input and feedback on these live Q&A questions as we go through the presentation.
Just real quick, Hannah, it's the Q&A box, not the chat box. Just want to make that clear. There's two
Thank
different
you.
boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for
right.
clarifying, Kristen. So
problem.
please enter your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box. Okay, so for the agenda, we're going to go over the study objectives and timelines. This will be followed by a quick overview of the town's community profile, a lot of data, good information. And then we're going to talk about a key aspect of the study, which is the attitudes and awareness survey that's currently being conducted by Arizona State University. The survey will be live through the end of August, and we're going to provide some additional details about it during this presentation. So, and then this will be followed by a high-level overview of the different mobility options considered by this study. And then our study website includes additional materials on different mobility options that we'll be discussing in this presentation. Following the presentation of mobility options, we'll then answer any questions that you have posed to us throughout the presentation in the Q&A box, and then we'll close by discussing next steps in the project. I'll turn it over to Kristen to administer the first live poll question.
Yes, coming soon here. So our first question for you is how you heard about this meeting. You can see the options here on your screen, and I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll so that you can provide your input. So we have a couple of people in this meeting. We're hoping to get your input on this question. Thank you. Heard about it from the newspaper article and the June 4th What's Poppin' in Queen Creek event. Any other input? Well, thank you for that. We'll go ahead and end the poll. Share the results really quick. Like I said, newspaper article and the event last week. So thank you, and we'll keep going with the presentation. Study overview.
Slide.
Here you go, Hannah.
Thanks, Kristen. As I'm sure many of you feel on a daily basis, Queen Creek roads are congested. We hear about it a lot. There's a lot of traffic cutting through the town and key construction projects that magnify the congestion on Queen Creek roads during peak hours, especially. So our study is going to review existing conditions and identify mobility-related concerns and opportunities. The study will also consider a variety of new and emerging mobility options that you may or may not have heard of already. These include micromobility, such as e-scooters and e-bikes, microtransit, robo-taxis, ride-hailing, mobility hubs, and mobility as a service, otherwise known as MOS. So if you haven't heard of these options before, we have a really handy FAQ on our project website that provides a description of these different mobility options. As you take the survey, you might want to reference that FAQ. A key component and input in this study is that attitudes and awareness survey. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear your insights and preferences on new and emerging mobility options. Robbie's going to touch on that here in the next few slides. Following the survey effort, we're going to identify strategies and develop an implementation roadmap for new mobility options. And if you would like, we have more information about this study and a link to the live survey on our project website, which is linked on the slide at the bottom. The attitudes and awareness survey also can be accessed from the project website, or you can go to www.movequeencreek.org to take the survey. And please, we would love for you to not only take the survey, but we're trying to reach as many residents as possible. So if you can help us share the survey link and spread the word about it, we would be forever grateful to you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justice, and he's going to talk to us about the study schedule.
Thanks, Hannah. So to put some of those objectives on a timeline that she was mentioning on the previous slide, we anticipate that this study will conclude in the summer of 2025. Right now, that attitudes and awareness survey is live. And again, we're very eager to hear your thoughts on the various mobility options that we have in the survey. And once we have those survey results, we'll hold a visioning workshop this fall with our technical advisory group, our TAG, which includes some key town staff from public works, economic development, planning, etc. And those findings from our survey, along with the existing conditions of the town and the outcomes of our workshop, are going to guide our recommendations. And we expect to have those recommendations by the end of this year. The implementation plan, as mentioned, will be put together early next year. And with that, I'll hand it over to Robbie, who's going to present on the Town of Queen Creek community profile.
Thanks, Hannah and Justice. Well, the town limits are identified on the map. It's a green highlight area. And the town planning limits is the region within the blue line. The study efforts are focused on alternate mobility options within these limits. I'll be presenting a few highlights on demographic profile of the town and provide some information on employment characteristics before moving on to the mobility options considered in this effort. Next slide. As of July 2023, the town had a population of 76,000, and the Census 2020 estimated the town's population to be around 60,000. So from a population standpoint, the town is experiencing tremendous growth. The population more than doubled in the last 15 years at about 126% growth since 2010, and is expected to double again by the planning horizon of 2050 to around 145,000. Next slide. In 2022, the town had approximately 19,000 households with an average of 3.3 residents per household. And the town also has a strong employment rate with an average of 1.5 employed individuals per household. This translates to a very high income per household, evident in the town's median income of 120,000 per annum, which surpasses the state's median by a significant margin, which is 70% higher than the state median of 72,000. So this profile, the high income and high employment, generally suggests a community with a propensity for high car ownership and a potentially higher weekday commuting need to go to work and back from work on a daily basis. Next slide. The image on the left on the slide illustrates the auto ownership in the community, and the image to the right, it illustrates the commuting mode, which is the mode of travel for work trips by town residents. Over 99% of households in the town have at least one personal vehicle, and a significant percentage, around 80% of households have at least 2 personal vehicles. This generally makes traveling by car a default choice for many households in the community. And almost 70% of work trips are completed as drive-alone trips. A drive-alone trip is a trip which is where the vehicle has only one occupant in the car. And about 20% of workers in the town are working from home. So notable in this graphic is the lack of any alternate modes for commuting trips from the town. Again, this translates to significant peak hour traffic volume leaving the town in the morning rush hour and back into the town during afternoon rush hour. Next slide. The town residents are mostly employed outside the town limits. Around 26,000 employees commute to areas outside the town limit. And around 2,000 employees live and work within the town limits. Approximately 10,000 workers live outside the town, close to the town, and commute into the town for work during the morning rush hour. So just like the population, the employment is expected to increase in the town, and by 2050, the employment is anticipated to be around 40,000. And the slide also lists the largest employees in the town, which are the 3 school districts and some healthcare and retail sectors. Next slide. So key to the study is an attitude and awareness survey, like Hannah mentioned, and your opinion matters and helps us in planning for the town transportation options. So thank you if you already participated in the survey, and thank you in advance if you plan to participate. The next slide, we'll discuss some, like the attitudes and survey considerations. And the objectives are to identify the town residents' awareness and preferences of emerging mobility options. The survey is being administered by the Arizona State University. It will be a statistically valid survey with a goal of around 1,000 responses. And for those who want to know more about the statistically valid survey, it is basically a survey that accurately reflects the opinions or behaviors of the target population it's trying to study. And the key to these surveys is to ensure that the survey represents a wide range of underlying demographics of the population and includes an unbiased data collection exercise. The survey will be open through the end of August. The survey link is www.movequeencreek.org and can be accessed from our project website. In the coming days, you will also receive a postal mail with more information about the survey. We appreciate your input and request your help in passing on the information about the survey to your neighbors, friends, and family living in Queen Creek. Next slide. Kristen?
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Robbie. Just wanted to launch another poll here to ask the participants in this meeting. Have you heard about the attitudes and awareness survey that Robbie just described? And here we go. Okay, I'll just wait about 5 more seconds in case anyone else has any input. And then end the poll and share the results. So thank you. We look forward to having your input. All right, next slide. Robbie.
Thanks,
this is
Kristen.
yours too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in today's ever-evolving transportation landscape, we have a wealth of exciting options emerging to meet the diverse mobility needs. In the following several slides, we present a range of mobility solutions that is being considered in the study. Additional information about these mobility options is also included on the project website. First, we look at a concept called mobility as a service, which is sort of a one-stop shop that offers seamless integration of various transportation modes. So imagine like a world where transportation is as convenient as ordering takeout. That's a promise of mobility as a service or MaaS. It's essentially a single platform that integrates various public and private transportation options, like think buses, micromobility options, scooters, bikes, car rentals, taxis, robo taxis into a seamless experience. So it's a one-stop shop essentially. And with MaaS, you can plan your entire trip, compare options based on factors like cost, time, convenience, and pay for everything through a single payment gateway. So it's not just about convenience. It also has the potential to reduce traffic congestion, improve air quality, encourage a shift towards more sustainable modes of transportation. Next slide. Mobility hubs are infrastructure components of the MaaS concept. So imagine a central location that acts as a multimodal transportation nerve center. So that's what a mobility hub is. So at a mobility hub, you may find access to public transit options like buses and trains, alongside docking stations for micromobility like bikes and scooters. Some hubs will also offer like car sharing programs, charging options for electric vehicles, or even autonomous shuttles for designated routes. And essentially, mobility hubs, they go beyond just transportation. They can be vibrant community spaces with retail shops. And in the Valley, the recently completed Thelda Williams Transit Center is an example of a mobility hub. And there's other mobility hubs that are emerging in other places of the Valley and also the country. Next slide. Micromobility is a concept that's basically the name for a category of small, lightweight vehicles that are perfect for short trips within a city. And this includes familiar options like bicycles and kick scooters, along with newer electric-powered versions like e-bikes and e-scooters. Micromobility offers a convenient and often more affordable way to get around compared to cars. And micromobility is perfect for first mile, last mile connections, bridging the gap between public transportation stops and your final destination. And the equipment can be either owned by you or rented from a shared center that involves renting one like e-bike or e-scooter, using it and docking it back at a destination, at a stop near your destination. Now, these concepts are implemented in many cities in the Valley, including the city of Phoenix, Gilbert, Scottsdale, many other cities. Next slide. And with respect to microtransit, you may have seen some of these vehicles running in the Valley. These are like smaller vehicles. It's a fleet of smaller vehicles like vans or shuttles that operate within designated service zones. And that is essentially the concept of microtransit. And riders can use an app to book on-demand rides, similar to ride hailing, but microtransit offers shared rides with flexible pickup and drop-off locations within a zone. So this makes it more convenient than fixed bus routes and often more affordable than a trip by Uber or Lyft. Microtransit is particularly beneficial in areas with lower population density where fixed routes may be inefficient, or for connecting riders to public transportation hubs. And it's dynamic and it's adaptable transportation option, and it fills an important gap in our existing landscape.
I was just gonna say that I was in Surprise today and I saw one of the WeRide vehicles, so.
And yeah, on that picture, you see two vehicles that are operational in the Valley. One is the Chandler Flex in the city of Chandler, and the WeRide in the city of Surprise.
Yep.
Next
All
slide.
right, next slide.
So this slide shows a couple of robo-taxis. You may have seen, again, these vehicles, Waymo, especially riding in the Valley. These are driverless vehicles. They're self-driving cars. And you can book a ride on these vehicles using an app, just like Uber or Lyft, and they don't have a human driver behind the wheel. So that's a robo-taxi. And these vehicles, they use advanced sensors and artificial intelligence to navigate roads safely and efficiently. And then the potential benefits include first mile and last mile connections to regional transit, increased accessibility for those who cannot drive themselves, and a more relaxed travel experience. Again, like in the Phoenix Valley, Waymo recently expanded their service offerings from City of Phoenix, and now they include Scottsdale as well. And over time, the service expansion will increase with more testing of these vehicles. Next slide. Autonomous shuttles are like robo-taxis, but they operate on a designated route and they have a higher capacity. These vehicles can offer seating for around 10 passengers, and then they are ADA compliant. They can be used to provide first mile and last mile services. And they can help reduce on reliance on personal cars for short commutes, and can be integral to mass network or mobility as a service network. On the pictures here, the two pictures that you see, they're operational, or the one on the top is currently operated in Georgia. It's autonomous shuttle that carries 10 people, and the one below was a pilot vehicle in the city of Peoria that the Maricopa Association of Governments, they've test piloted in the valley. Next slide. The final concept is called a TNC partnership, and a TNC is basically a transportation network company. Uber and Lyft are examples of these companies. And they play a crucial role in the mobility landscape, but for a partnership with a local agency can unlock even greater potential. So imagine like where you can book a Uber ride, and then like the Uber comes and picks you up and drops you off at a transit center, and then you continue with your journey using the same reservation kind of thing without like having to pay for like the transit service as well, or vice versa, right? So you take the transit and then you get off at transit and the Uber is waiting for you, and then you continue on your path, on your journey towards your destination. So that's what a TNC partnership can result in. And a TNC partnership can also be with respect to your micro mobility options. You take Uber and then you get off, and then you rent a micro mobility like bike, and then you continue on your journey. So those are what TNC partnerships are. In the Valley, the city of Phoenix did a pilot partnership with Lyft, and other municipalities are also considering such partnerships to provide more connectivity to the regional transit and other micromobility options. Next slide. Well, that concludes the different mobility options presentations. Kristen?
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. So this is time for questions and answers. I don't see anything yet in the question and answer dialog box. So we're just going to wait a couple minutes to see if anybody has a question or comment. We'd love to address your questions during this presentation. It's a lot of information. At the end of the presentation, we're going to provide you a couple of email addresses in case you think of questions later. And the recording of this presentation will also be available on the project website. So you can come back and review it again. Think if you have any other questions, share it with your friends. Okay, we have a question. This is great. And thank you for the question. This is the question. Do you have any transportation scheduled where you could go to and from a place like Costco, get a lot of stuff, and go home? I'll start with Hannah about the idea of scheduled, and then maybe talk to Ravi about different options.
Thanks, Kristen. And Rich, thank you so much for your question. So currently there is not any scheduled public transit service that serves the town of Queen Creek. And so I think that is, one of the reasons why we're doing this survey is to try to understand what your transportation needs are, which can really help provide that kind of information that would help the town point to what options they would like to pursue in the future. assuming that you would like to see more options than just driving alone in your car. So they, can have information about what your exact transportation needs are, in deciding which one of those mobility options might best serve your needs. So it sounds like you need to get to a place like Costco and you need to be able to have storage to get your groceries and your supplies back to your house. So it would be that's helpful context. And I think it would be really great if you could take the survey and also provide that information in our survey as well. Thank you so much, Rich. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Rich has a follow-up question that says, I thought this was going to include Queen Creek. And we do have Jan Martin with the town of Queen Creek on the line. Do you have anything to add to what Hannah said about transportation options to get to and from a place like Costco?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to look at is we want to know what those destination points are and what we could provide to try to get some of the traffic off the roads. We are building bike lanes on almost every major road. We're putting in sidewalk. We have trails that crisscross the town. And we'd like to see those used a lot more. We want this to be a more person-centered type of transportation network in the town of Queen Creek. And some of the options that were presented earlier may get us there. So, if you have an interest in that, that's what we're looking to hear about.
Thanks, Jan.
Kristen, if I may.
Yes, absolutely, Robbie. Go ahead.
Yeah. In some of the peer cities, whether it's Chandler, Surprise, or Avondale, micro transit stop at some of the popular activity centers. It could be Costco or a shopping center, retail center, has been a thing. And you can with a micro transit like that, if it becomes a reality in Queen Creek, you can book a ride to Costco and then do your shopping, get your bags, and then like get back to your destination. So that's an option. So there are other considerations like microtransit, like robo taxis or other things where they offer you some storage space to get your groceries back to your place after you're done with your shopping activities. So yeah, definitely some options are emerging in this space.
Thank you, Ravi. We're just going to hang out for a couple more minutes and see if you have any other questions or comments, because we'd love to hear from you. Well, I don't see any follow-up questions, and hopefully our team answered your question about getting to Costco and back with a lot of stuff. I can relate to that for sure. Our last poll is about what's the best time to hold a virtual public meeting. Obviously, today we did it in the evening, but for future reference, we'd like to know what your opinion is. And there is another question in the Q&A. So before I launch that poll, I'm gonna look at that. The comment is, this should be marketed better to the Queen Creek population. This presentation is very valuable. And thank you. That's great. That's really great to hear. So we've been working with the town. We've been featured on social media with the town, email blasts through the town and school districts and homeowner associations. And so we really are working to get the word out. We'd love any comments you have about what you would like to see, or how you found out about us. I think we heard a newspaper article and the What's Poppin' in Queen Creek event. So be on social media and people who are on the town's email lists. We'd love to hear any other ideas you have. We definitely get this out to as many people as possible. Sorry, Justice, go ahead.
No, you're good. To add on to that, word of mouth does a lot for
Yeah.
spreading the information about studies like this and important things going on in the town. So I really do appreciate that you find the presentation valuable. That's awesome. If you wanted to share with people you know, again, it's going to be uploaded to the project website so they could come and take a look. We have lots of project materials on there, get some good answers to some possible questions you might have. And then we'll be having more, community meetings in the future as well.
I was going to say, spoiler alert, there's more coming up. And that's why we're asking this question. We'd like to know your opinion. I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry about that. In your opinion, what is the best time for us to hold a virtual meeting like this? Is it evening like we did? Or another time of day? We have a strong result for evening. If you have any other comments about whether 6 o'clock is too early or too late, you can definitely enter that, type that into the Q&A box. To share results to show you the strong showing for evening. So thank you. That's very helpful. We'll go ahead and move on. Next steps. Here's a picture of Hannah and Justice at the What's Poppin' in Queen Creek event. We were very, very happy and honored to be part of that event. And Hannah, can you take us through the next steps for this study?
Of course, thanks, Kristen. So as we wrap up this presentation, I just want to remind you of a couple key milestones here. We talked a lot about this survey that's currently live. We welcome your assistance in helping us share the link to the survey. Hopefully you all take the survey as well, but really, as Justice mentioned, word of mouth is key to helping us get the word out about the survey. Again, that's available. The link is available on the website, on that project website. So thank you for your help in sharing that information. Once we have the survey findings available at the end of August, we're gonna meet with our technical advisory group. Otherwise, we call them the TAG. They're basically representatives from key staff from the town in different departments. We're gonna conduct a visioning workshop with the TAG, and we're gonna review the survey findings, existing conditions, and come up with visioning workshop outcomes that will inform recommendations that we develop. That will be by the end of this year. And then we will be developing an implementation plan early next year in 2025. And then, of course, we will plan to complete the study and have our final report by the summer of 2025 next year. Next slide.
Yeah, just to add to that quick, next outreach planned this fall after we get the results back, and we can share those with you. And I wanted to also mention in the Q&A dialogue box, one of our participants entered that 6 o'clock is the perfect time. So thank you for that. We appreciate that.
We want to thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you so much for being here and providing some input. Your participation is very important to the study. We're going to This is being recorded and we're going to post the recording of this meeting to our project website so that anyone who is not able to attend and join us tonight is able to access this presentation. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jan at the town. Our contact info is listed on the screen. We have our email addresses up there. So please feel free to shoot us any questions you might have. But otherwise, please help us get the word out about the survey. And we really appreciate your time and your interest in this study. So with that, I'm just going to say have a great night and thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and leave the meeting live for probably another 30 seconds to see if you have anything else that you want to say to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep, we just got to thank you. And so thank you very much. We appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us and helping spread the word. And we'll keep doing our best to spread the word as well. Make sure and visit our project website and review information about the study.
That address is www.azmag.gov/Queen Creek Mobility. So that's the link to the project website. And it has a link. So project website has a link to the survey.
Yeah.
And again, the survey link is www.movequeencreek.org.
So
Thank you all.
did this slide real quick to show everybody the project website. Thanks, Hannah. All right, thanks everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and end the meeting. And I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.